This journal starts in media res. If you would like to learn about the backstories of the PCs and NPCs, you can watch my video, The Dark Sun Campaign Introduction. I will leave a link to it in the description below. Before I start into the events of my group's last game session, I want to add some information I forgot in the intro video. There is one PC I neglected to mention until now. Her name is Hordia, and she is an elf fighter mage, played by Avery, the daughter of Lisa and Alex. Hordia is the lowest level player character in the party because she has only played about 1/5 as long as most of the other PCs in the party. She is from Torel and ran into the party in the Underdark while they were there on their way to Menzoberranzan. After the party killed all the matron mothers of the High Council, Hordia decided to stick with the party until they returned to their home world of Athos. We pick up the story with the party having just tricked Beast into following them into a trap set by Bell Smith. The group broke camp and started heading south on the caravan road towards Dunphy. By midday, they reached Alterock. Beast was in a hurry, so he insisted that they go around the village instead of through it. As they marched south through the rocky Badlands, Mardalian silently worried about how low his wand's spell supply was getting. He's a defiler and didn't dare actually cast spells in front of Beast, and because of this he had been relying heavily on his wand in combat the last few days. At the end of a long day's march, the party set up camp in their normal fashion by having Mardalion use his wand to make a Leomud's secure shelter, while Beast disappeared into the darkness and hid so the others would not try to kill him in his sleep. The next morning, while the priests were praying for their spells, Mardalion was reminded of the predicament with his wand. The group broke camp and started another long, hot day's march south. After a couple of miles, it occurred to Click she and Dor could use their carpets of flying to scout ahead a little. They took up positions a few hundred feet ahead of the party at about 50 feet in altitude. Soon after that, the landscape changed from rocky badlands to stony barrens. About midday, the group arrived at Garrix pool. They topped off their water skins and moved on. A couple of hours later, Dor spotted 2 large boulders, one on either side of the road. Behind each boulder were 3 Birogs waiting in ambush. Dor loosed 2 arrows at one of the 4-armed giants, hitting it with one. Uli cast Entangle on that Birog, and the 2 crouched near it. Beast and Karan sprinted forward. 2 of the unentangled Birog rushed forward to meet them in melee. One attacked Karan, landing 3 heavy blows, 1 to his head and 2 on his chest. The other tried to pummel Beast 4 times, but was unsuccessful at harming him. Beast viciously attacked each Birog twice with his mighty 2-handed sword, leaving them disemboweled and headless. The Birog that Dor had shot stood up, boulder in hand, ready to pitch it at the party. Mardalion blasted it with 5 magic missiles from his wand, and Click made contact with its mind. It threw its boulder and missed Jarleel. The last unentangled Birog hurled its boulder, but also missed its target. Then Click used id insinuation on the Birog she had contacted earlier, causing him to stand motionless as he did battle with his id in his mind. Hordia used a ring she had looted off a High Council member in Menzoberranzan to summon a huge spider the size of a dog. Khaleesi and Blaze were both afraid of spiders, so the halfling jumped on her Thri-Kreen friend's back, and Khaleesi used her wild talent ability to levitate to take the 2 of them out of the reach of the arachnid. Hordia's spider ran up and attacked the leg of one of the entangled Birog. Then Jarleel finished the lanky giant off. Kron came around from the other side of the entangled area and hacked at the hip of a heretofore unhurt barog. Uli cast spike growth on the same spot she had entangled, and this stabbed holes through the feet of the barog standing there. Beast bounded up to the last unentangled barog and eviscerated it with extreme prejudice. Dor fired 2 more arrows at his original target, bringing it down with an arrow to each eye. Finally, Karan buried his huge axe in the chest of the last standing barog. The party took a few minutes to loot the bodies of the barog and heal Karan. He had been brought down to just 1/3 his maximum hit points. With that taken care of, they continued on their way. As the olive sky turned to deep crimson, the group stopped by the road to make camp. By this time, Mardalian was really concerned he would not be prepared for their upcoming ordeal. He knew that they were leading Beast into a trap, and that his boss, Bel Smith, was an intensely evil man. He did not know if he would be expected to fight with Beast, a true terror in combat, or fight his way out of the trap if he got caught in it, and considered expendable losses by his boss if he couldn't. Because of this, he was determined to be as ready as possible when the time came, and a good portion of being ready would be to have his wand as full of spells as he could get it. When the young defiler thought Beast was not looking, he snuck off into the darkened desert, looking for a place he could cast spells into his wand in secret. What he did not know was Beast was watching him. Mardalian rounded a large boulder and was met by a snarling Timbu. Before the abomination could leap on him, Mardalian blasted it with the last lightning bolt from his wand. This produced a thunderclap that could be heard for miles and a bright flash. The Timbu defeated, Mardalian returned to the camp. Just as he reached the door of his secure shelter, his resolve returned to him. Once again he snuck back out into the darkness. This time he was not attacked, and cast his defiling spells into his wand. Beast had followed him on this second try as well, and was now sure Mardalian was a defiler. He did not act on this knowledge right away, but it did color his view of everything Mardalian did from then on. The next day, the group met a large fortified caravan coming up the road from Balik. The party spoke briefly with its vanguard and made way to let the enormous wagon pass. About 5 hours into their marching day, the party noticed a salt flat on their right. As they walked further south, the salt flat got closer to the road. Beast spotted 3 large cracks in the surface of the flat and proclaimed, "This is where we turn west." There was no sign of a road, but Beast explained that he had always tried his best to keep Dunphy a secret, so he had his followers take great pains to erase any signs of their passage as they traveled across the salt flat. The group had been walking west across the glistening salt for about 2 hours when a skeletal hand burst through the thin crust of salt and attacked Kron's leg. Before the party had a chance to react, 3 dozen bony soldiers had torn their way out of the salt and surrounded the group. Uli and the other 2 elemental priests destroyed nearly half the skeletons by invoking the power of their elements to return them to the grave. After that mass turning, Khaleesi crushed 2 skeletons with her great maul, and Karan destroyed 2 more with his huge axe. Mardalian finished off the rest with a fireball from his wand. Having easily bested Belsmith's first lure, the party marched on. When Beast knew they were getting close to Dunphy, he removed his helmet, and for the first time the others could see his whole head and face was covered in blue hair. As the group approached the gates of Dunphy, Beast marveled at the changes that had occurred since the last time he was home. A wall 20 feet tall had been added using huge blocks of salt. The salt had been cut from the ground just outside the wall, so this had formed a dry moat. Beast expected a warm welcome from the guards manning the gate. They were his followers, after all. However, when he approached the gate, helmet under his arm, he was ordered to drop his weapons, get down on his knees, and submit to arrest. Beast refused and insisted that the captain of the guard be fetched. The captain of the guard was a dwarf named Kotex. From the guard tower he informed Beast that his lord had returned 4 days earlier and had warned of an impostor's coming. He had ordered the impostor be bound and brought before him in the throne room. In an attempt to prove who he was, Beast asked Kotex, someone he had known and worked closely with for almost 6 years, to ask him a question only Beast would know the answer to. Kotex asked him where the last place he saw his son was. Beast's son had shown interest in becoming a sun cleric, so Beast took him to the Shrine of the Sun to start his training. The shrine is on a mountaintop overlooking the village of Salt View, so Beast answered Salt View. Kotex ran down the guard tower and out the gate as fast as his short legs would carry him. He drew his sword and planted it into the salt-crusted ground, then kneeled before Beast begging for forgiveness. Beast waved it off and insisted that he be taken to the impostor, Bell Smith. Kotex told him that he was in the throne room. Beast told Kotex to gather a few of his elite followers to assault the throne room. He said he didn't want to condemn large numbers of his less skilled soldiers to death by ordering them to attack Bell Smith. Kotex reminded Beast that the men that guarded his throne room were some of his best, so they proceeded there. As they passed through the village of Dunphy, people made way and gates opened ahead of them. When they finally made it to the long hallway leading to Beast's throne room, Kotex urged the group to wait as he went forward. He sent the 2 guards at the door back to join the party, and then entered the throne room. He left the heavy throne room doors ajar. The party moved forward and heard Kotex accuse the man sitting on the throne of being an impostor. Beast bounded into the throne room, brushed past Kotex, and viciously hacked at Bell Smith with his huge sword. After 4 attacks, not a hair on the wicked defiler's head was disturbed. Bell Smith smirked and exclaimed, "Stoneskins." Then he pulled a glass vessel from his robe and dashed it on the ground. A greater fire elemental erupted from the spot, cutting Beast and the party off from Bell Smith. He fled to the door of Beast's private chambers, snatching a cobblestone from his pocket as he ran. A second stone fell out of his pocket in his haste. He threw the cobblestone at the door of Beast's chambers, and the door disappeared and was replaced by a radiant blue passage. He dove through it and was gone. The blue passage disappeared, and soon afterwards so did the fire elemental. Beast looked the cobblestone on the floor over. No one wanted to touch it, though, for fear it might be trapped. Finally, Mardalian said that it was probably the key that opened the interdimensional portal that Bell Smith had used. He said that they had used a stone very much like that one to open that portal before. Realizing he had just said too much, Mardalian changed the subject to what Beast would be willing to pay them for help going after Bell Smith. Beast asked what Bell Smith had been paying them up to that point. He figured he could double it, and they would be on their way. The problem was no one seemed to know what they were being paid by Bell Smith. No one but Mardalian, that is, and he was being elusive. Finally, Beast made the party an offer. He promised them he would provide whatever Click and Door had requested, plus 1,000 gold pieces to split however they wanted. He would give them 500 now and 500 when they returned. After a little discussion, the party agreed. This negotiation took about 20 minutes. If Bell Smith had really been trying to escape and not just drawing them into his trap, he would have been gone long before Beast and the party came to terms. He had gone to Sigil. In 20 minutes, he could have been nearly anywhere in the multiverse. When the group finally did open the portal and step through, they found themselves in a walled enclosure with no roof. It was full of tall piles of rock salt with narrow paths running between them. At the far end of the enclosure was an unmanned guard shack, with open gates on either side of it that led out onto the street. Going from the intense Athasian heat to the damp cool of sigil so suddenly sent chills down the spine of the party. It didn't take Beast long to spot Belle Smith once the group emerged onto the street of the Hive Ward. The old defiler was only a block or so away. When he saw Beast, he fled with unnatural speed and disappeared down a side street. Click and Door whipped out their carpets of flying and sped off over the shanty town looking for their quarry. They had a hard time tracking him through the narrow streets. Click finally saw him turning right into an alley and then left into a courtyard. With no other exit that Click could see, she signaled to the rest of the group and they rushed to the spot. When the party trotted into the courtyard led by Beast and Kron, they saw Belle Smith standing with his back to a door. The air around him glittered with some strange energy. To his dismay, Beast found the demon lord Miska the wolf spider blocking his way. Behind the party, 2 Thri-Kreen leapt down from the rooftops.
They were surrounded. Mardalion's worst fear had come true. He was standing just a few feet away from Beast and was about to suffer Belle Smith's wrath with the gladiator. Kron heaved his huge axe over his head and swung it wildly at Miska. The enormous monstrosity leaned back, dodging the blow. The mighty mole used the momentum from his first swing to set up the second. This time he drove his axe with all his might. With his weapon hitting nothing but air, it drug Kron off his balance and sent him sprawling on the ground. In an instant, Miska sized up Beast and Kron and found Beast the greater threat. He lunged forward at Beast with a pair of scimitars in his upper set of hands, and a morning star in each of his lower 2 hands. The giant spider fiend slashed Beast once with a scimitar. One of his wolf head's gnashing teeth narrowly missed Beast's left arm, but both morning stars found their mark on Beast's shoulder and back. Miska also slashed Kron across the stomach with his other scimitar. His keenly sharp blade found a seam in the mole's banded mail and left a long gash from one side to the other of his lower torso. Miska's ferocity was so great that even Beast, as mighty as he was left reeling in the wake of his attacks. While Beast and Kron were being pummeled by Miska, Click tried to use her psionic powers to contact Belle Smith's mind, but found it well defended. Then Door, still circling on his carpet of flying, loosed 2 arrows at Belle Smith. The arrows struck the glittering envelope around the old defiler, and seemingly were transported to the other side of the envelope without passing through the intervening space. Mardalion whipped out his wand and fired off a lightning bolt at Miska. It struck him square in the chest. It flashed, crackled, and hissed, but didn't harm the demon lord in the least. Mardalion was struck in the back by a volleyball-sized wad of spider silk. On impact, it burst and spilled out putrid-smelling poison. The young mage slung his burlap robe off before the poison could soak through to his skin. Having had a few seconds to recover his wits, Beast brutally hacked and slashed at Miska. The powerful gladiator slashed the demon lord across the chest, spun around, and stabbed Miska in the gut, pulled his blade free and buried it in his side, then whipped his body around and chopped down a full foot into Miska's upper torso where his neck and shoulder met. The giant spider fiend slumped forward dead. In the rear of the group, Khaleesi rounded on one of the Thri-Kreen with her great maul. The boar-sized spider fiend crouched under her first swing, but was hammered in the abdomen by the second. Blaze pulled out her blowgun and fired off a poisoned dart at the same Thri-Kreen. The monster growled at the pain, but the poison had no effect on it. All 3 priests of the party cast spells that fizzled and were ineffective against the powerful fiend opponents. With nothing in between him and his old enemy but air and opportunity, Beast streaked forward, his deadly sword held high. He brought it down on the wicked old defiler 4 times, but each slash failed to harm him. Beast's blade just seemed to skip past the space inside the glittering envelope that surrounded Belle Smith. In the brief moment that had passed since Beast had slain him, Miska's wounds had healed enough to revive him. He pushed himself back up to his full terrifying height and menaced Mardalian and the priests. Jarleal leapt between Miska and Mardalian. He stabbed at him with his Batoran green steel sword. Miska slapped the blow aside and ran the young fighter through with one of his scimitars. Jarleal flopped to the ground, unconscious and bleeding. Miska then turned his attention on Kron. Having felt the sting of Miska's steel once before, Kron was none too keen on feeling it again. He ducked, dodged, and parried all but one of the Demon Lord's attacks. Miska finally caught Kron with one of his morning stars in the ribs, doubling him over in pain. The stalwart gladiator sucked a breath in through clenched teeth and forced himself back upright. Seeing all this from above, Dor decided that desperate measures were called for. He pitched his carpet of flying into a dive, gathering speed as he plunged through the 50-foot space above the courtyard. With his metal gate braced in front of him, he smashed into Bellsmith like a freight train. The glittering envelope around the foul defiler popped, and the two of them slammed into the back wall of a nearby building. The wall, along with some of the ceiling it was supporting, collapsed on top of the half-giant and the wizard. Bellsmith struggled to free himself from the debris. He stood up with a look of intense concentration on his face, and the glittering envelope reappeared. Watching from her carpet above, Click was inspired by Dor's unconventional attack. She used the power of her mind to tear a hole in the fabric of space beneath the battered defiler. She opened the other end, 150 feet directly above Miska. Bellsmith fell through the hole in reality and out the other side. He rained down out of the sky like a ballista bolt and struck the great demon lord between his shoulder blades. The defiler's body speared through his ally, bursting from Miska's underside, shattering the man's legs. Bellsmith's upper body came to rest somewhere in the giant spider-fiend's lower torso. Miska pitched forward dead once more, only this time with 2 more gaping wounds. The rack lupus that had thrown the ball of poisoned silk at Mardalian jumped down off the rooftop and joined the fray. Blaze rushed to her retainer, Jarleal's side. She poured a healing potion down his throat, and many of his wounds healed almost instantaneously. Mardalian aimed his wand at the Spithraku Khaleesi and Blaze had attacked earlier. He fired off 5 magic missiles at the creature and blistered its hairy flesh badly. The Earth Cleric tried to call down a column of molten rock upon the rack lupus. The spell evaporated when it hit its skin, though. Determined to smite one of the fiends, the halfling water cleric called forth a glowing hammer of steam and flung it at the injured Spithraku. The hammer dissolved harmlessly upon impact. Kron ran into the fray. He heaved his great axe high and brought it down across the back of the unhurt Spithraku's neck. He separated the spider fiend from its head, and it fell to the flagstone floor. Khaleesi tried and failed twice to smash the rack lupus with her great maul. The last Spithraku came to the defense of its superior and lunged at the Thri-Kreen gladiator. She was too quick for the monster and danced away from its attacks. Dor, having ascended back into the sky above, looked to crush the horse-sized rack lupus. He flew over the melee and dove off his carpet of flying, elbow first. He was nearly 50 feet up when he started his plunge. Luckily, everyone in melee with the rack lupus was able to get out of the way, everyone including the rack lupus. Dor plowed into the hard flagstones, shattering them and leaving a shallow crater. As he struggled back to his feet, he proclaimed, "It was worth a try." As Dor was pushing himself to his feet, Beast sprinted around him and ran the last Spithraku through with his 2-hand sword. Then he rounded on the rack lupus and hacked it to death. At that point, a noise caught Click's attention. Its direction quickly became apparent. A half-dozen blocks away, she spotted a force of no less than 30 men. They were well armed and armored, and were led by men with whistles and bells. Everyone cleared the street to let the small army of Harmonium pass. Click shouted down that the authorities were on their way and would arrive in less than 10 minutes. Mardalian had the 3 priests cast spells to neutralize Miska's poisonous blood, and Beast cut Bellsmith out of the Fiend Lord's body. They quickly looted his body and set fire to the corpses. Click used her will to tear another hole in space that allowed the party to come out on the rooftop across the street from the salt yard. She then positioned her carpet of flying over the intervening street. Most of the party jumped from one rooftop to the carpet to the other rooftop without trouble, but Uli, Jarleel, and the Earth Cleric misjudged their leap and ended up in the street below. They picked themselves up and ran around the enclosure wall. The party then used some rock salt to open the portal back to Beast's throne room. In the end, Beast was happy because he saw his most hated enemy die. Click was happy because Beast gave her a 200 gold piece bonus for killing Bellsmith. The rest of the party was happy because they made it out alive, and Mardalian was very happy because he looted Bellsmith's traveling spellbook off of his body. And that is where we ended for the night. Our next game session is scheduled for March the 10th, 2018, and I should have a video journal posted for it the following week. So if you enjoyed this video and would like to find out what happens next, you can check back in around mid-March. Before I let you go, I would like to tell you about a contest I'm running on my channel right now. To enter yourself, all you have to do is subscribe. I'm giving away this book of AD&D 2nd Edition character record sheets. It is in like new condition with none of the pages filled out or missing. Only my first 100 subscribers are eligible for this giveaway. When I reach 100 subscribers, I will use my D100 to choose a name from among them. Then I will contact the winner to make arrangements to get them their prize. I hope you found this video entertaining. If you did, please leave a like, share it with a friend, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you later.